Hey everybody, today we're going to start working on a project that we're going to use as a self-portrait, but instead of drawing our face and our bodies, we're going to be using objects and images that actually represent pieces of who we are, things we like to do, stuff like that. And what we're going to eventually end up doing is using three pieces. We're going to cut them out, we're going to use your defining images inside those pieces, and we're going to put it all together to show something that we call unity in the art world, which means you're going to have three different pieces, but they're going to be unified so they will look and work together as a single piece of artwork. So with this one, what I did was I took some shapes that were kind of like trapezoids, maybe squared off triangles, however you want to think about it, and I realized that they kind of looked like the shapes of Starbucks cups. So I drew the seam on the edge of the cup and I shaded it in using some value, and then I used what is normally that little insulating cardboard thing. I used that as the space to draw my images, and I've got two cups that are upside down and one cup that's right side up, or if you think about it the other way, you can see the images a little bit better. I like to ride bikes, so I incorporated a bike, the handlebars, and the frame of the bike and the tire, but I drew it to make it look like I'm looking down from the top of the bike, kind of like I'm actually standing over the top of it. I've also got the bike chain in there. I like climbing, and so I've got a carabiner, which is a piece of climbing gear, and a climbing rope going through it, and the rope comes back this way. And if you look right here, I've also got a piece of the handlebars from the bike that was attached right here, but I've got those over on this side now. And I've got a shoelace and a compass because I like to hike quite a bit in the summertime, so I added both of those things in there as well. And I put some graffiti in the background to fill up the rest of my space, and because I do like graffiti. It's been long enough since I made this one though that I don't remember what it actually says back there. And anybody who knows me fairly well from being in class this year knows that I like coffee, which is fitting because I've got the Starbucks coffee cups in the background. So, you're going to be looking at a piece of paper like this, and once your name goes on it, flip it over, and you're going to come up with three shapes. The shapes should be something that you can actually relate to. Here's what I'm talking about. These aren't just random shapes. Like I said, they were shapes that were cut into looking like the Starbucks coffee cup. So when you're working on yours, come up with shapes that are identifiable as something. So let's see what I can do here. Okay, I ended up with some rough shapes that are obviously not all the same size, but I did draw them to look like the same type of shape, and I wanted it to look kind of like a really fat, stubby pencil. So this would be where the tip of the pencil is, and up here would be where the eraser goes. And I'm going to draw my images inside. But I decided what I wanted to do was make sure that my image is going to fit inside the pencil where we'd normally see kind of the grooves on the sides, the edges, and then I'm going to leave the tip to look like the tip of a pencil and draw the top to kind of look like where the eraser would go. If you look over here, I just use the edge of my paper to be the edge of my pencil. So everything that I'm going to draw now to represent who I am is going to go inside the space here, here, and here. Now what you need to do with this when you draw your images is think back to this one. Each one of these images that I drew to represent me isn't an entire image. What I mean is I didn't show you the whole bike. And in fact, I've only shown you one wheel, part of the actual frame of the bike, and the set of handlebars. You need to do something similar to this, and it's called cropping. And cropping works because it makes it a little bit easier to show an image that's more interesting when you don't actually draw or paint the whole thing. Same thing happened here. I didn't draw the entire carabiner. I left this piece off and just cropped what you needed to see here. And the same thing happened with the compass. And some of you will notice that the top of the carabiner here ended up on this third shape over here. So the benefit to cropping these things is that once we cut them out from this piece of paper, is that you will have something from this first image that ends up jumping over to the second image, something from the second image that ends up also showing up in the third image as well. Alright, I've got my first object that represents me drawn out right here. I like to paint, and I do a lot of painting in my own spare time. So I drew the tip of a paintbrush. Obviously it's cropped because you don't see the handle, which would end up being way out here if I was actually drawing the whole thing. But I've got the bristles of the brush here, and I drew the paint kind of coming down, and actually ends up also carrying over into my third shape over there as well. So obviously when you're looking at this, I'm drawing pretty big. I'm drawing big enough that I can go from my first shape into my second shape at least. Now you don't have to use all three shapes, but the larger you draw things, the more it's going to look a little bit more visually interesting. So what I'm going to do here now is, of course, I can't draw a picture without adding a coffee cup somewhere. I'm going to start to make my coffee cup here. Okay, I penciled in my coffee cup, and obviously it's cropped. We don't see the bottom, but it was drawn large enough to fill up my second and my third shapes, and I gave it a little face on there as well, because one of my most favorite tattoos is actually a coffee cup with a face, and it's kind of got this weird little grin here. I just roughly added some hatching lines where the coffee is going to go, so that helps me remember that when I come back with some colored pencils or even a little bit of paint, I can fill that in brown. So my next goal is to fill up some more of this space over here. Alright, to bring you back up to speed on what I started doing here, and it's still in progress, but a lot of you guys probably realize I'm a fan of beards. So I drew kind of a face back behind my paintbrush, and there's the nose, there's the ears, there's the hair on top, and I started to draw kind of a long, cartoony looking beard that goes from my first piece of pencil into my second piece of pencil as well. So before I finish this, here's what you guys need to start on yours today. Obviously you need the three shapes that are fairly recognizable. You do need a little space in between each shape, and you need to be drawing large enough that you can crop every single one of the images that you put in there. I've got my beard hanging off the pencil down here, but it's also cropped on my second pencil where it would be here. In terms of images, you should be drawing large enough that you have 5 to 7 things filling up this space. Now, you're working on watercolor paper, which has a little extra texture to it, and it's got a little bit more what we call tooth in art. And because of that tooth, some of your pencil is going to sit on top, and it's going to make things a little bit easier to smudge if you're not paying attention to where the bottom of your hand is. So as you're working through this, draw lightly at first in case you need to erase because you make a mistake. Since that paper is a little bit more textury than we're used to, it's going to be harder to erase. So draw light until you're sure that what you've got down there is what you want to stay, and then you can go back over it and press a little bit harder with your pencil.